Hi, I'm Rich Regan, CEO of the Auditorium Theater, and welcome to another edition of Odd Talk. Today, we welcome the Executive Director of Arts Alliance Illinois, Claire Rice. Thank you for joining us, Claire.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me.
So, where are you speaking to us from today?
We're actually in the process of moving offices. So I am downtown in the Loop in Chicago.
So are you in your new location now?
No, we're still in the packing up. I'm surrounded. I'm not going to zoom out. You'll see far too many moving boxes and packaging tape. So we're in our old offices, and we'll be moving to a different location in the Loop.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. And how are you and your staff doing as we're now and many months into our pandemic shutdown?
You know, the work of advocacy is not over, Rich, for arts and culture. So the staff is hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. We've got a big conference coming up, but you know, it is a long haul. We're hoping to get some vacation time in for everyone after the election, probably is what we're looking at. But this is a marathon, not a sprint, in terms of the challenges facing arts advocates at this moment. So trying to pace ourselves, keep our head up, and keep laughing as we can.
That's all so important, and the work of arts advocacy couldn't be actually more critical than it is right now for all arts organizations in Illinois. So let's talk a little bit about Arts Alliance Illinois so our audience can get to know you and what you do for arts organizations in Illinois.
Absolutely. So we were founded in 1982 when one of our first threats to public funding for the arts in Illinois was brewing in Springfield, and the arts community came together to say this shall not stand. And out of those sort of origins of commitment and collective action, the Arts Alliance was born. And now we think a little broader about our advocacy mission. We champion arts supportive policies and resources that strengthen Illinois communities and increase equity and access to the arts. And that's on behalf of our hundreds of member organizations across the state and thousands of individual arts advocates, and of course on behalf of all Illinois residents as well.
Now, those of us in the arts know exactly what you do, but perhaps you could describe a program or two where our audience could identify with exactly how your mission breaks down.
Yeah, how that works. So we really focus on providing the tools and the opportunities that the creative community needs to exercise its own power in advocacy and policy. So advocacy training, racial equity community organizing, both grassroots and grass tops, campaigns for arts support, funding, and policy change. We engage our members in, such as the Auditorium, in direct advocacy with public officials, everywhere from DC to Springfield to city halls around the state. Generally, our programs focus on building public will for arts and culture and building the tools that the field needs to imagine its own future.
And, you know, really to me, what I see the value is of your work, Claire, is that you know, my single voice, you know, I can yell pretty loud, but I'm still one voice. And what you do is you represent many voices. So when you're able to get an audience with this leader or that leader, you're representing all of arts in Illinois, which is so important.
That's right. That's right. And we're really thinking broadly about, we're trying to create the biggest tent possible for the creative community here in Illinois. Nonprofit, for-profit, individual artists, organizations, arts educators, supporters and stakeholders. We want everyone to come together exactly to amplify the voice of the creative community and express our needs, which at this moment are extraordinary.
They are indeed. And let's talk a little bit about that. You know, during this pandemic, you know, your mission still holds true, but maybe your focus has changed a little bit. Can you talk to us about that?
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, I think like most organizations, we've evolved our programs. We're all using the word pivot, right, a lot these days to respond to this current moment. And for us, I think it's been about getting resources directly in the hands of the creative community, and that's everything from cash, from dollars, to the types of tools that the field needs to manage this crisis. And also galvanizing that community for collective action on behalf of the arts and cultural landscape in this particular moment. So we've done a lot of direct advocacy work, campaigns at the federal, state, and local level to encourage direct relief for arts and culture in this moment. We've also helped the field understand these brand new government loan and grant and unemployment programs that folks have never had to engage with previously. So there are individual artists and creatives that were not eligible for unemployment in the past. We've helped them understand how to apply, how to navigate some of the challenges of the system. We've advocated on behalf of those artists and creatives when the system has failed them. And I can give nerdy, wonky examples of that, but that's that type of work on behalf of individual creatives has been really important to us. And similarly, you know, our organization has never applied for a government loan before. A lot of other cultural organizations, arts organizations have not either. So navigating the landscape of what those grant and loan programs look like, helping folks apply, helping them get access to those dollars has been important to us through webinars, one-on-one coaching, policy briefings, etc. And then we've also been instrumental in the Arts for Illinois Relief Fund, which channeled $7 million of direct cash support to general operating support to organizations and cash relief to artists, has gone out in the last few months, which we're really proud of. It's not enough, but it is, these grants are grants that say, I see you, you know, we see you, Illinois creative community, we see your challenges and we want you to stay here. We want you to continuing to engage here in Illinois, and we value you. And then we've also represented the field with both the governor and the mayor's offices on reopening and economic recovery efforts. I mean, the number of task force meetings I've been to in the last few months is sort of mind-blowing, but it's really important that the arts have a voice at those tables, especially when it comes to economic recovery conversations and where our government will be focusing energy and tax dollars moving forward.
Arts for Illinois is truly full service, as I think that's really the appropriate phrase to describe you, because as you mentioned, many of us haven't navigated these waters before, and whether we're a larger institution like the Auditorium Theater or an individual artist, you're not just advocating with the government institution, but then you're coaching all the individuals through the steps of the process that they need to take to get the relief. So that I think is such a crucial aspect of it that makes you full service, unlike any other institution, you know, in your category that I've ever seen. So, you know, Claire, your team does amazing work. So, you know, we really can't predict the future, but if you had to look into a crystal ball, where would you like to see arts organizations in Illinois a year from now? So this time next year.
Well, a year from now, hopefully we're starting to get back to gathering in person. I think that it is extraordinary the opportunity that the digital space has provided us as a field throughout the pandemic. And I think we've seen some really interesting innovations around digital creation, digital presentation, and the ways we can engage audiences beyond shared physical space. And I'd like to see those types of innovations continue, but I want them to amplify the beauty and of us coming together as a sector in person to experience, in your case, the live performing arts or the visual arts or film. You know, the shared experience of an audience engaging with the arts, it's irreplaceable. There's no takeout version of our sector. There's no, alternative business model that makes a ton of sense for us as we think about moving forward. So I would like us to be able to gather in person once again a year from now, or be very close to that, if not there. And but I'd also like to see the ways in which we do that looking a little differently, right? So can we think differently about our physical spaces? Can we encourage collaboration in some new ways between larger organizations and smaller organizations, between traditionally white-led organizations and Black and Brown led organizations? Can we, think in new ways about kind of breaking our sector toward justice and equity and access a year from now? Because we have the time, right? We have the time to think in new and creative ways about collaboration and physical space.
Mhm.
So I'm very hopeful that we come back in person, but that we come back better and different, and with new values systems in place, and new ways of working that we haven't seen before, that are a result of innovation and necessity.
Mhm. It's really a great point, Claire, in that what other circumstance would we all be required to stop what we're doing and rethink our business models other than this? And I guess that's truly a situation where we're making lemonade out of lemons. But I too am hopeful that once we emerge from this, we're going to be stronger organizations. We've all been forced to look at our expenses in extreme scrutiny, and we've all been forced to look at our practices as we look at national and international events. And we should look at those practices in the same amount of scrutiny, and pull out of this in a much stronger fashion.
Absolutely.
So after the pandemic is over, I want people to experience that transformative experience of being in the theater. The Auditorium Theater, National Historic Landmark, the beauty and the architecture surrounds you, and that doesn't quite translate over video. But are there ways that we can continue both the virtual format and the live format, which we survive off of? So that's the aspect that we all need to sort of grapple with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge challenge about that blended model, but the blended model will be an important part of our future moving forward. And I think the ways in which we are accessing that digital content, and that digital content is becoming special and of great quality, is continuing to improve even over the last few months, right? People are moving from putting out archival material into specifically produced content for this medium. And that's going to require a lot of flexibility on the part of organized labor, on the part of our institutions. I mean, we're all going to have to come together around this to make that work and continue to make it work. But I do think that there is great potential for that collaboration to generate new creative work that is exciting, and that does blend or amplify the in-person experience. And I think that collaboration is something, I mean, that's something I'm thinking about for the Arts Alliance as well. I really hope that in the future, the ways in which we have been encouraged, if not forced, to work together in new ways during this pandemic. I think one of the things that's been highlighted for me is we need to come together as a sector in a much more unified way than we've been able to in the past. So I think in the past we've been a little divided by the ways our business model works, whether we're a nonprofit, whether we're a for-profit, whether we're an individual artist, and we think of ourselves in sort of different buckets. Whereas in this moment, what we need to do, and I think hopefully into the future, and this is something that will last far beyond the pandemic, is think of ourselves as a united creative sector and talk about the benefits and the value that we bring to communities in a much more collective way, alongside our colleagues in the film industry, alongside our colleagues in for-profit creative industries, where we can talk about the impact we have both economically and socially to our communities much more collectively than we've done in the past. And again, as we think about that future and that collaboration that's going to be requisite for creative practice, that same collaboration is going to be required for ongoing collective action, ongoing advocacy work, and just making the case to the public around the value of investment in our field.
Claire, that's so well put, in that preceding this point, I think we all sort of looked at issues as our personal issues, but now maybe we're opening up a little bit more, and we understand that while we all do have our personal challenges every day, many of those challenges are common throughout our sector. And if we get together and we talk about them, maybe we can solve those problems as a group and be more effective and more broad in our reach. So I think that's very well put. So Claire, as we talk about the future, let's talk about the near future. We've got national and local elections coming up. Is Arts Alliance Illinois working on any type of advocacy or awareness centering around the elections?
Absolutely. So we feel election engagement is a critical part of not only civic life, but the role of arts and culture in community. There's a lot more, even on the nonprofit side, that cultural organizations can do to get involved in elections than perhaps they think they can. Arts organizations can act as polling places, and we've actually been in touch with the Chicago Board of Elections and other boards of elections around the state to see if they need polling places, particularly in this current environment. We love the idea of the public coming into a cultural space that hasn't been activated in a while, but that could serve in this really important civic capacity. So we've made that offer, and we're hoping they take us up on it in a couple of instances around the city and the state. We're also encouraging folks to be poll workers, election judges in this upcoming election. We've got a lot of unemployed cultural workers out there right now, and this is a paid job that's critically important for our civic life. It's also something that traditionally some of our elderly population has taken on as a responsibility, and we don't want to expose them to the risk of the virus this year. So if younger workers, particularly those who are in need of some work and who care about this election, can come to the fore, there's information on that on our website about that. And then, of course, just get out the vote efforts and making sure people exercise their civic responsibility.
So all of those very important activities, and it feels like Arts Alliance Illinois is playing the part of awareness for the membership and how you can participate and what you can actually do.
For sure, exactly. That's the idea. And we also just want to show people, communities right now that theaters are still engaged in the life of their community, right? Performing arts centers, museums, we are active, engaged parts of our civic life. And it doesn't matter that we happen to be not presenting major events, right? There's still ways for us to engage and support communities across Illinois. We're also working on some ways to more broadly get some of the unemployment rate in our sector is extremely high, unfortunately. Lots of organizations have been subject to layoffs, and individual artists, of course, have lost a lot of gigs coming up. So we're working with the state on some workforce development programs that can deploy creative workers in using their skills in perhaps some new ways. So we're hoping to see some of that come to fruition, and we'll let y'all know more about that as those programs materialize.
That's great. All extremely important work, Claire. Thank you very much. I have another question for you. It's a question we like to ask our guests on Odd Talk, and it's an important one here. So hope you're ready for this. So, you know, before the pandemic, you attended many shows at the Auditorium Theater, and you know, we're in our 131st year as the Auditorium Theater in Chicago. Do you have a favorite memory or an experience or a specific performance at the Auditorium that you'd like to share with everyone?
I mean, it seems unfair to pick just one, but I do have a specific memory of the 2015 Grupo Corpo premiere. And I think it was in like the February, March timeframe. And I remember I used to be in presenting, right? I was a Rich Regan, although not at the CEO level, but active in the presenting field back in Michigan. And I remember the first time my organization at the time presented that I saw Grupo Corpo was also in the middle of winter. And I can't remember, I was going, you know, some heartbreak had happened in my life. And I remember walking into that theater and I was so sad and it was dark and cold. And they just shot, you know, Brazil and sunshine and light and life right into my heart. And I remember in 2015, the premiere here in Chicago, the exact same thing happened. And that time I was able to share that with my now husband at one of our very first cultural experiences together in Chicago. So it's special to me for a lot of reasons. It's an extraordinary company, beautiful dancers, a real amazing cultural expression. And I think that for me, it was just, you know, the kind of sunshine we all need in the middle of winter in Chicago. And I think the kind of light and life that the arts bring.
Truly another great example of the transformative power of the arts, indeed. Claire Rice, you are amazing at what you do. The arts in Illinois is extremely lucky to have you, and we thank you so much for helping us out today with Aud Talk.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.